Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Martin, your librarian, and I'm here to give you a few tips for your project free, in which you are answering the question, were African Americans truly free after the Civil War? And I know that you are arguing this from the point of view of either a former slave, a Southerner, or a Northerner. Now, I have a feeling some of you may be a little rusty with source selection. Since you had summer break, I was just working with an 11th grade English class last week, having them pick what they would consider their best source, and few chose sources from the library's book collection or database collection. Many were relying on Google. So obviously, I want to remind you of our resources, and Mr. Owens is sort of doing that as well through the source rubric. So you have to, earn a certain amount of research points for this project, and of course, by using the library resources, you will most likely earn a higher amount of points. So not only do I want to show you those sources, but how to search within them. So before we dive into the library website, I just want to give you a couple tips. Before you just maybe type in Reconstruction, I would you and your partner, determine how you want to approach your argument. So maybe flip through your textbooks and look at some of the vocab words, or look at your homework notes from reading the textbook. It'd be a lot easier, for example, if you are arguing for the perspective of the former slaves. It'd be a lot easier if maybe you typed in something specific like black coats, or the Ku Klux Klan, or Jim Crow laws, poll taxes, literacy tests, Plessy versus Ferguson. Those are examples of how I won't give you your argument, but those are examples of ways or situations slaves faced after the Civil War. So again, be familiar with any terms that will help your search. So for the South, you may be arguing, that things improved, so you might want to look at the 15th Amendment, sharecropping, Freedmen's Bureau, Civil Rights Act of 1866. Those are just a few. For the North, you may want to approach this from the radical Republicans' point of view. So people like Charles Sumner and Thaddeus Stevens, who pushed for voting reform and land reform for African Americans. Or maybe you want to focus on the work of abolitionists and their point of view during this time period. So hopefully that wasn't too much. I just have a history background, so I wanted to give you some tips, because I always try to put myself in your shoes. So just a little while ago, I did go on the library website and I looked through, here we are, reference as databases. I looked through our databases and the ebook I'm going to show you, and there were almost too many choices, even for me with a history background. So I actually pulled out an old textbook I used to teach out of and got all these vocab words and brushed up on some of the events that I just shared with you. And that totally reformed my search. And that's what I want to remind you all of. The sources are going to help you, but the way you search within those sources really makes the difference. So let's start with something you may or may not have used here at Oak Ridge, and that's an ebook. So where you'll find those is in our catalog tab, and then you will click here for our library catalog. So I already have it open, and you can type in Reconstruction to see all the sources we have. Maybe, you'll be passing by the library and maybe you want to check out this one that I recently purchased a few years ago. Or Of course, not all of them are what you want. The history books are the 900s, so you can just scan through our shelves or just scan through these results and find one that may work for you. Books are great. Books will get you some nice points for your sources, but they're not required. One way to access a book without having to travel to the library is looking at this ebook right here. So I purchased this specifically for your guys' project a year or two ago, so I definitely wanted to take this opportunity to show it to you. The nice thing is it has unlimited copies, so you all can be looking at it at the same exact time. It's not like a physical book where you have to share. Now, I'm already signed in, but you will most likely have to sign in when you click open, and you just use the same username and password you use on the library computers. So your login information without the email ending. So let's check it out. So I like this ebook because it has a variety of sources. It has biographies, it has primary sources, and I will go back to table of contents. Smart place to start. Okay, so here you have sort of an overview of Reconstruction based off of different time periods or different key players. Biographies, so maybe you want to have your argument include some of these famous people. And then I think the primary sources are very helpful. Also, I noticed on your assignment sheet 2 are required. So if you want to open one up, let's see here. Let's do a former slaveholder reacts to emancipation. So you just click on it like I did, takes you right to the page, and usually these sources are only a few pages long. Won't take 4 pages, so it won't take you too much time to get through it. I should say though, if you find a source that you want to use, let me go back. I know you're using Noodle Tools, so I want to show you how to cite these. An ebook is just like, it's similar to how you would cite a normal book. I think Noodle Tools actually has a tab for ebooks or digital sources. Here you have your title. I think Hillstrom is the author, not the editor, but we can confirm. Yeah, it looks like she is. Publisher is right here, and then I don't think Noodle Tools requires a city, but if you need it, it's there. And then of course you need this page, the copyright date, 2016. So I think books are a lot easier to cite than websites, but that's just me. Okay, so another way to get some great primary sources, going back to our library website, clicking on referenced as databases. You'll be using U.S. history and context for this project and many others, I hope. So, like I said before, you can type in Reconstruction and you'll get a lot of sources, and that might be where you want to start, or you can make it a little more specific. So, let me try a search with you. So I clicked advanced search. I'm going to do Reconstruction and then slave. So I'm hoping to get a perspective about Reconstruction from a former slave. Oh, I should mention, I always pick keyword here. Document title is really going to narrow down the search is probably too much because you're saying the word slave has to be in the title, and I don't think that's necessary. So I always do keyword here. All right. So of course you guys know this is a database source, so it's got a lot more clout, I would say, than the web. But of course, according to your source rubric, different kinds of sources get more points than others. So a reference source, that's sort of going to be like a general encyclopedia source. I know many of you will need those primary sources. So you just scroll down until you find them. And this is nice. It even tells you, not only is it a primary source, it's a memoir, it's an excerpt. So that will be helpful. Okay, here we go. A former slave offers his view of Reconstruction. I don't think you can get any better than that. Hopefully not all of you will use this exact source, but I think, this is definitely off to a good start. You are getting a perspective from a former slave when answering the question, were they free or not? So here you have a little summary and then the actual primary source. I hope by now you guys know that these tools can really help you out a lot. There's a note-taking tool, highlighting, citation tool. You've probably seen me show you before, but I haven't gotten to show all of you this really cool trick. So here you can copy and paste this into Noodle Tools or your Google Doc, or if you're signed in, I just sign in up here. You want to tell Gail to connect with your Google account, to connect with your Noodle Tools account. They're all working together now. So sign in, and then you just want to export this to Noodle Tools, and it will actually send the citation into your project that you've already created for this assignment. It will send it in that file, and you'll be done with your citation. So that's a cool little trick. So hopefully this has pointed you in the right direction. I think you guys know if you have any questions, please come see me in the library. Good luck with your project.